Hi, everybody. I'm Maria Summers. I'm the Director of Champs Group Purchasing. Thank you so much for joining us again today for another Supplier Spotlight. Today's topic is going to be e-procurement. So I'm going to introduce Micah here so he can tell you more about this great offering that we have for our membership. Micah?
Awesome. Thank you, Maria. Pleasure to be here today. Thank you to everyone out there for giving us a couple of moments to introduce ourselves and hopefully earn the opportunity to get to know you a little bit better down the road. So my name is Micah McClellan. I lead our go-to-market strategy here at Hybrent. I was a part of the team that launched our technology back in 2013 and have been privileged to be a part of that journey ever since. So I think we're going to go ahead and get our conversation kicked off today, and looking forward to it. So let me go ahead and share my screen. All right. So again, I work for Hybrent, and I think it's safe to assume you are probably looking for a little bit of information of what are we going to learn today and who does this topic apply to. So let's give you some of those answers to the test right as we get going here. So if you're somebody out there who's in the clinical team and specifically works around things like I help order supplies, I help check in those deliveries, I help manage or count inventory, getting and sourcing products is important to me. We hope that you're going to learn something from today's conversation. Certainly, if you're an administrator, an operator, an owner of a physician's office, a surgery center, a healthcare providing organization, like all of us are, you're going to hopefully learn a lot today. And if you're somebody who helps manage kind of the books, the finances, you're working on the invoices, we're hoping to bring some solutions to you today in the conversation. So I like to start off things with a story. I'm sure some of you have heard this before, so forgive me if this is a repeat for some of you out there. But so some scientific researchers, for whatever reason, decided to do a study. And that study was anchored around, let's look at every animal out there to see who is the most efficient in movement, right? So basically looking at locomotive efficiency. So they went out there and studied thousands and thousands and thousands of creatures. And what they came to, answer on the test here, is that the condor was the most effective as it relates to operating and moving from point A to point B. Unfortunately for us in mankind, we were pretty far down the list, not a great showing. So what these scientific researchers did is they added a simple tool to what humans had in the form of a bicycle. What they found is when you added that bicycle, humans leapfrogged everyone else who was in front of them, and including the condor, and became the most efficient. Now, we as humans have the ability to gain tools, knowledge, information that doesn't allow for status quo, that allows us to propel forward. And that's really what we hope to be for our customers. So who is Hybrent? As we mentioned at the start, it's about e-procurement, but it's about more than that. It's really about gaining control, information, knowledge, and efficiencies related to the things that you purchase, spend money on, and the teams that you have doing those operations. So what do we hope that you'll walk away with today? So one is just to start a conversation, right? We're going to walk through some processes, some tools. We're going to get into the technology. But as you think about the folks in your organization, whether it be clinical, operational, financial, ownership, they all have different perspectives on what happens in those workflows and the impact it can have for your business. And we hope that today is a catalyst to have those conversations internally. We hope that you can walk away with some tips and tricks that you could deploy today. We hope that we're going to introduce you to our technology so that for those of you who are on this journey and are looking for ways to make this a little bit easier for you and your teams, you'll know about our resources available to you. So I always like to start with the end in mind. So we're going to get into how we do it. And obviously, we're going to open up the software and give you a little bit of exposure there. But ultimately, before we get to that point, we need to know what's the impact that this has for you and for our current customers. Our fundamental promises are that through following a guided tour of best practices, Hybrent should unlock two fundamental truths. For those of you who are on the part of the organization that is trying to drive for financial stewardship, making sure that we're using our resources in the most effective way that we can, you're going to be focused on the left side of the screen. Through doing things like helping your teams know what to buy, who to buy it from, making sure that you're informed on when prices go up or down, driving for a formulary, a compliance-driven system of being intentional about what you're buying and who you're buying it from. Then you layer on things like, hey, let's know about those expenses ahead of time, easy PO approval processes. Doing things like we're going to tie into How do we work better with our GPO relationship to make sure that when we're engaging with those vendors and managing our price books, that those are in sync and we're maximizing the benefits that we have? How do we make sure that we're reviewing invoices and making sure that we're only paying for things that we've received? How do we have the right amount of inventory, right? In today's world, that's a challenge, but we don't want to have too much. And of course, we never want to have too little. So how do we build best practices around those? When you layer in those workflows without changing your vendors, you're going to lead to a 5 to 10% reduction in cost. And those are studied facts that we're happy to engage with you. The other part of it is all of us are resource constrained today, right? So we're looking for ways to create wins for the teams that we have. And these tools will provide exactly that. It'll make it easier for your teams who are sourcing and doing your purchasing, those that are checking in deliveries, your back-end team who's reviewing and auditing and coding and entering invoices. If you go through inventory counts for particular parts of our customer base, going through end-of-month reporting, how did we do? What can we improve? All of those things become much easier when you have the right tool in place. We talked a little bit about kind of the contract compliance side of things. So obviously, we'll make the safe assumption today that anybody who's joining us right now already understands the value of having a true partner to help you manage through the purchasing process. That's where this marriage really kind of becomes a 1 + 1 = 11. By giving Champs the right information that our system will provide, you really marry those two things together to maximize each side of the relationship that they're bringing forward. So it works really, really well in concert, and we look forward to having a conversation with you about that. So what can you really expect to receive? So it's about convenience when we're talking about our relationship. It's about better insight and information so you can make sure you're maximizing that contract spend, making sure you're getting the best price in the market that's available to you. It's about driving and iterating to improve performance, right? It's a journey, right? So we're on this path together, and this system will help you kind of automate through that. So what are we going to talk through today? We're going to go through some basic processes of everyone out there. We work with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of healthcare organizations. Everyone kind of has most of these core elements. It starts off with, let's get our hands around what we're buying. We call that procurement. Then let's make sure we've got a really good process around what we're paying for. That's the invoicing side of things. Then we can progress down that journey to say, hey, there's some products maybe we want to have actual inventory management around. Then how do we report and improve off of that to really kind of get a gold star at the top? So how does our system kind of do what it does, and what does it do? So this is kind of a quick explanation of the Hybrent workflow. So first and foremost, we started off by saying it's about e-procurement. What Hybrent does is think of it like an Amazon that's specific to your organization. So you've got a single destination to go in and generate any of those purchases that you want to. That extends across all of your vendors. So from office supplies to specialty products to medications to DME to services, anything can be loaded into the system, and we'll show you some examples of that when we jump into the software. The good news is in today's world, not everything has to happen at a desktop computer. So we've done some really elegant things, giving you mobile tools so that you can set up barcodes and use a tablet or a phone to scan in orders. You can set up templates to walk the halls. You can check in deliveries at your back door when they get dropped by UPS or the courier. So in addition to the website, there's some really great mobile tools to help make those processes even easier. Then as you've generated those purchases, you send them out through the system, replacing your destination to each of your vendors' websites or the phones or fax or emails that you do with your local representatives. And our system will transmit those orders. But before it does that, it gives you a chance to review those. So if you're somebody who has your team members generate orders and your job is to review them, now you've got a front-loaded system. And again, you can engage that with your mobile application, probably not sitting in front of your computer logged into Hybrent for most of the day. The next module we'll touch on is called the e-receive, and that's really just a replacement to the packing slip process. So most of you out there, when a box gets delivered, you pull the paper, you look in the box, you say, yep, we got it, or no, we didn't. You highlight it, you circle it, you stick it in a folder, you send it off to the finance team down the road. Our system makes that a couple of clicks, and all that information is recorded, it's documented, it can never get lost, and it automatically talks to the other departments who are going to need it. Speaking of that check-in process, that feeds our inventory. So for those of you who've got products that you're looking to actually understand, how many do we have? Where does it live? When do they expire, as an example? This system's going to enable you with the right tools to do that. If there's certain products you want to expense out to departments or patients, you've got the ability to do that inside the system. Integrations. Our system is great on its own. It's even better when it talks to other systems, specifically your accounting system. So when we'll talk about a QuickBooks or Great Plains or Sage or Intact, names that might be familiar to you, our system reviews and synthesizes your invoices and then automatically syncs those over, creating a completely digital experience for your entire team. So let's kind of double click on a couple of those talking points that we went through. So what do we mean by it's an e-procurement system? It means literally any vendor that you're working with, from the large national account ones to your local mom and pop specialty vendors, are going to be able to be loaded into this system. You'll have one username and password, role specific guidance inside of the system, and you can do all of your shopping. So there isn't a category or a vendor that would be excluded from this workflow. What do we mean kind of in those mobile experiences? So it's your ability to set up a barcoding system and do it with a smartphone without having to invest in a bunch of hardware or technology. It's about putting order guides and templates in your hand. So if you're walking a supply room, you can quickly add items that you need and move on from the ones that you're doing just fine on. Extending kind of those mobile workflows beyond just the purchasing side. It also allows you to manage inventory through scanning products out, recording lot and serial information. Again, expensing certain products out to either departments or patient encounters is part of our workflows. We've got lots of different specialties represented in the audience today and different types of customer bases, from surgery centers to physicians' offices to community health. So there's certain products that are going to be different and important for each of you. You've got vaccines for those that are appropriate. You've got IUDs for women's health. You've got DME items for orthopedics or a Synvisc. So for those specialty items, this also gives you the ability to really track not just what you purchased and make sure you're paying a great price for it, but it's also about what did we use, where did it go, and how much do we have left? And let's make sure we spend every one of those dollars we've invested in product in patient care versus having things go to shrink or waste. All right, so this next part's going to be all about the finance people. So if your job is to help automate and review invoices, looking for what I'm sure you call the three-way match, we know what that process looks like. And I'll just start off by saying, I'm sorry. We can make it better, and that's our hopeful outcome here today. So what does your before look like, right? You get a bill from your vendor. Maybe that comes through from an email. Maybe it's in the mail. Maybe you download it from their website. And then your job is to say, hey, should we pay this thing? So how do we go do that, right? We look for things like that packing slip that we talked about earlier. Maybe you take that invoice and you scan it out to somebody at your facility or administration to say, hey, can you sign off on this thing? That comes back to you. You code those items, and then you go enter it into your accounting system, right? QuickBooks, Intact, Sage, whatever flavor of that tool you guys have chosen. So how does it look after Hybrent's in place? That's where you've got a completely digital invoice. So no longer do the vendors stick those in the mail, or do you have to go searching for those things? They're all now going to show up right inside of the Hybrent system, 100% digitized. Then the software does all that work of that three-way match. So it's going to confirm, we knew about this, right? We have a purchase order for this expense, that we've received the items that we're being asked to pay for, that the price that we agreed to pay is actually what we're being charged now that the bill came through. It knows and remembers your GL code, so then it can apply that to both the facility level and the item and department level. And then once you approve that expense, our integrations pass that information directly into your accounting system. So you've never touched a piece of paper from start to finish. Data comes through, and now you can sleep soundly at night knowing we've only paid for things that have the right price and that we've received. So lots of benefit from the back end folks who are managing that process. Now, earlier we talked about the bicycle, but the bicycle wouldn't do any good for us if the tires were square or nobody taught you how to ride it. So one of the things that we hang our hat on is we know for most of you, this will be the first time you've brought a solution like this to your organization. So we've got to have a team that's prepared to roll up their sleeves, work side by side with you, who has done this hundreds of times to make sure that it's a successful project. So that's where we really pride ourselves and invest most of our resources inside of our organization to make sure that you've got a great launch if you do choose to move forward with our organization. So I'm going to quickly jump into an actual presentation of the software system just to give you a first pass glance of what that might look like.
Micah, while you are pulling that up, we have one question in
Yeah.
the chat. If you could just reconfirm, you started to mention the specialties, the classes of trade and specialty markets that this is really a great fit for.
Yeah, great question. So we've got the pleasure of serving physician clinics of varying specialties, right? So, urgent care, community health, women's health, pediatrics, ENT, orthopedics, right? So regardless of the specialty, we have a lot of customers that look and feel like that profile. We tend to be a good solution for groups that maybe have 3, 4, 5, 10 more facilities as a part of their structure than just the pure standalone. Then the other part of our customer base, it's really where our company started, is in the surgery center market, where we're going to create a ton of value regardless of the size, the number of facilities you have. That's a stable of our customer base that we know we can drive a lot of value for.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again over here, and I'm going to walk you through a very quick introduction to the Hybrent application. So, again, starting with the end in mind, you get a dashboard. It gives you some metrics on where are we at in our monthly budget. What have we spent? What orders are out there that we need to kind of review. We've talked about the shopping. What does it mean to have e-procurement? So it's really about having that single destination to manage all of your expenditures. So you can see in this particular user, they've got a list of vendors that have been assigned to them. They've got 29 vendors that they can shop from, and it's a custom formulary of the products that you purchase, the prices that you've negotiated with those suppliers. And shopping on Hybrent is just like shopping on any e-commerce site. Add the product to your cart, and then you can go check out, generating orders from multiple suppliers at the same time. So in this kind of example, I've got some pharmaceutical items and some products from Medline here. All I would have to do to send this through is hit generate PO. Boom, that order goes to my approver. Or if it doesn't trigger one of those approval processes, it goes directly for the vendor for fulfillment. So really simplifies those workflows. You can see over here, we've got this left blue toolbar that'll walk us through some other tabs. Like I've got an orders tab. That's just a document storage for any transaction that's occurred. I can check in those deliveries, right? So we talked about the packing slip process. What does that look like? It means I've got an order, it got dropped off, click a button and complete it. Now I've recorded that update as an inventory. It's going to tie to my invoice. My job is done. So taking very many manual steps, and turning those into an automated one. Then I can walk into some other features, right? Like maybe I'm into inventory and I've got some items that I actually want to go count and update because I'm keeping a par level for these subset of items, right? We've got some PPE items here. I'm sure some of you guys put some processes in place to go really manage and record not just what we're buying, but what we have and where it lives. You can see I've got an invoicing module and reports module. So we can expand this based on the user role and their job inside of the organization, giving them the right tools for the role that they have. So that's kind of just a very, very quick overview of the system. Obviously, for any of you who are interested, we'd love to set up a time to take you through a deeper dive. Now, if I go back over to kind of just to conclude our conversation here today, we kind of talked through what the onboarding process would look like. We gave you a quick overview of what the software actually looks like. What does that really mean? What do we hope it to be? So what we fundamentally know is that if we give you the right tools to enable the right process, ultimately you get to control the costs and bring efficiency to your organization. So when we talk about spend management simplified, that's really kind of what we mean. With a couple of slight changes, giving your group an easier tool to use, you really can drive savings to the bottom line and a win for your team. For any of our customers who move forward, what we want to align on is kind of a mission statement. And for most of our groups, it's going to look at something like this. We want to make sure from a before and after perspective, we can validate we're improving your workflows, right? We're giving time back to you and to your team. Most of that time, thankfully, can return right back into patient care because a lot of you out here who are doing these tasks, that's who you are. You're nurses and medical assistants and physical therapy aides and scrub techs. And we know that your time is best served in front of those patients versus doing some of these tasks that just can be easier. Then we want to make sure, how are we driving savings, right? Ultimately, if we're a spend management tool, we have to be able to come back to you and say, this was your before, this is your after, and this is how we've improved the bottom line. So how can we do things like, again, buying the right things from the right vendors, price control, alignment with your GPO and contracts, making sure that products that could expire, you've got tools and resources to allocate those items before that event would happen. And then ultimately, how do we report off of this, improve, and start the cycle over again, giving you the right visibility so that you can go to your organization and really adopt and make these changes. Now, this next slide might seem like it's a little bit of a humble brag, but it's really meant to give you the confidence that there are peers and colleagues all over the country who are in the exact same spot that you are in, where they hadn't yet made these decisions that this was going to be a priority for their organization. But we are fortunate enough to have 65,000 people out there who engage in our system on an ongoing basis, where we have over 1,000 customers representing 24,000 locations. We process billions of spend in this ecosystem, and we would love the opportunity to do that same thing for you. The time has never been more important to find ways to bring savings to our organization and tools and resources to the teams that we have, right? Everyone's looking for a win, and we would love to be a part of that story. So if you're interested in learning anything more about our group, obviously, you know your local representatives at Champs. They will get us connected to the right person inside of our organization. You can always visit hybrent.com. There's some information on there, ways to get a hold of us. I'd love to get an introduction for any of you who are willing. I'm out there on LinkedIn. My name is Michael McClelland. Send me a connection and we can get a conversation started. And without any further ado, I appreciate everyone's time today. And unless there's any other questions, we'll see you down the road.
Hey, Micah, thank you so much for all of the information today. It was fantastic to get this overview. There are no additional questions, just a couple comments on follow-up, which will make sure your contact information gets out there and you get connected with those individuals. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And thank you again, Micah.
Take care. Thanks, Maria.
Bye-bye.